I'm really excited about my guest today. He's been hailed by the New York Times, Robert Palmer, as one of the most gifted songwriters to emerge from the New York City scene in a number of years. His high energy performances leave the people wanting for more and feeling even better than when they showed up. And his album, Streets of New York, is known as a masterpiece. And I'm so happy to welcome Willie Nile to the Long Island Sound.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. And thanks for the kind words.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know what's amazing to me is I always get deep into somebody's music, which I had a cursory listen of your music forever, but then I really try to focus in on your stuff, and it's just really beautiful in a lot of different ways to me. And anyway, I appreciate your art and what you do,
Thank you.
and taking that songwriting prowess and putting it into high energy. I want to know what you eat and drink because, man,
Well,
it's amazing.
I'm tired today. I just came back from the Midwest, and I've been running, been really busy. I didn't have much sleep the last couple of nights, so I'm tired, but I'm in good spirits, real good.
That's great. So I got to ask you a question right off the bat because I have a friend who's a bass player. He had told me that you had played at Swing the Teapot in Floral Park.
Yeah, that's a good guy, that owner. Yeah.
Yeah, John Cardone is a bass player, and he's got to get this before I forget about it. He says, "Ask Willie, what's the highest jackknife kick that Johnny Pisano ever did that he can remember?"
You know, he gets up there, Johnny. I think that it was we did a festival in Italy. Well, he's always up there, but we did a festival in Italy maybe, I don't know how many years ago, a bunch of years ago, and he got really high up. And Christina, my wife, the photographer, got a great picture from behind. I can't remember the name of the city. It was a festival in some medieval city in Italy. But
Oh, cool.
Johnny gets up in the air, that's for sure.
So let's turn the pages back just a little bit. You're a Buffalo guy. So you studied classical piano.
Yeah.
And then you moved to rock and roll and folk and that sort of thing. What was that pivotal moment in your time that you made that move?
Well, as a kid, like an 8-year-old kid, I took classical piano lessons till I was about 16 or so in high school. And I had other interests, females, alcohol, sports. So, so much for the piano. And, party with my friends. But I loved music from early on, classical. I loved rock and roll. I had older brothers, so there was always rock and roll in the house. And I just really loved it. And obviously seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan was pivotal for me, like it was for so many.
Right.
But at this time, I didn't consider myself. I thought early on, when I was a little kid, I thought I'd be a classical pianist. That was a dream I had. But then rock and roll came. But I still didn't think about playing. In high school, I started writing poetry in high school. But those aren't songs. And then a pivotal event was when my first year in college, I was north of Canton, Ohio. I grew up in Buffalo. And I went there, and my roommate was a guitar player. And it was boring as hell, at 5 miles north of Canton. It was cow country. There was nothing.
Right.
The nearest thing was the Hoover vacuum cleaner factory, which is like 5 miles away. And so my roommate had a guitar. And so I learned to play the guitar. And that was a pivotal thing, I would say, because I took my poetry that I was writing at the time, and I started just learning simple guitar chords. And I started putting songs together, and that was the change. But I was into rock and roll early on, and as a kid, I saw Elvis Presley on TV, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, all the Everly Brothers. I loved all that early, first, Little Richard. That really hit me. I love that stuff. That I was hook, line, and sinker then. And then in the 60s was the British invasion, and Dylan, Motown, so many great things. It was an explosive time for music. And when I learned to play the guitar my first year of college, when I went back to Buffalo for the holidays, I sat at the piano and I retaught myself the piano via the guitar. I just started playing chords. Anybody watching this, if you don't play an instrument, if you want to, there's a guy called the Piano Guy, Scott Houston. If you go, the PBS, the piano guy. I don't know
Okay.
if he's even alive, but I remember being in Sweden, 20 years ago. And on TV, I was 4 in the morning. I just arrived, and I'm watching TV, and that's what I do. I could teach a kid in 10 minutes to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or Jingle Bells,
Right.
chords, no reading notes, no scales. And this guy teaches that way. So any adult, not for nothing, it's a side comment, but like if anybody wants to learn to play a keyboard, it's doable. If you Google Scott Houston, the piano guy, or PBS, the piano guy, and look at his videos, that's the easiest way to learn an instrument. And nowadays you can buy a keyboard, and these great keyboards where you can have a full orchestra at your fingertips.
Right.
I want to play cello, just put it on a cello setting and boom, boom, boom. Anyway, yeah, just
Yeah. In fact, I'll put the links to that in the description, as well as the links to your site, Willie Nile.
when thank you, Steve. When I saw that, I went, that's exactly what I do. I'm thinking chords, and I can obviously riff off that because I've been doing it for years, but it's an easy way for an adult or a kid just to play this. You end up playing the songs that you like. You just play the chords. It's easy.
Yep, yep. I got a weird question for you. You said you started writing poetry, I guess, in high school, and I'm always curious about the muse, how the muse strikes an artist to write songs or write poetry. Do you still write poetry, and does it come to you in different ways from a poetry perspective as opposed to songwriting?
Not really. I mean, I don't.
Okay,
I wrote a couple in college. I wrote, I think, 2 books, poetry books. They weren't published. That's some individual poems published here and there. But once I started writing songs, all my writing went there. And as far as where it comes from, if I get an inspiration, I don't sit down to write. I just wait till something strikes me. Like
okay.
on my new album, there's a song called An Irish Goodbye. That phrase just came into my head, and I went right away. After so many years of writing, I can kind of identify which ideas are worth pursuing. And I thought, oh, that could be something. And like I went, well, what's a chorus? And right away, an Irish goodbye, an Irish goodbye. Here's fire in your whiskey, here's mud in your eye. It's high time to leave here. The angels know why, I'll just say an Irish goodbye. It's about mortality, but it's a celebration.
Yeah.
But I don't write, I just write. Any writing I do goes into songs, and I just wait till the inspiration strikes me. If I'm sitting at a keyboard or playing a guitar, or I might be walking down the street and hear a riff, a guitar
Uh-huh.
line, or a bass line, or a phrase might come to mind. All of the above.
It's funny when you said that, and what I love about songwriters like yourself is when you even just what you just did, you did the lyrics, the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm thinking about my brother, and we're not Irish, but he always did the Irish goodbye. I'd be like, where the hell is he? It was time for him to go, and he just goes.
If anybody listening doesn't know, an Irish goodbye is when you leave someplace without saying goodbye. You kind of just slip out the door. It's not meant to be offensive in any way. You just leave.
Right.
When I had that idea, I wanted to write about the big Irish goodbye, and it's a great drinking song. I love this. I love it. The recording came out great. But that's an example of a phrase coming to mind and a song coming out of that.
Early in your career, Robert Palmer from the New York Times praised you, and You know, how did that strike you? And I want to preempt that a little bit by, you're quoted as saying, not quoted, but, for you, it's not about, correct me if I'm wrong, chasing the fame. It's really about the love of music and connecting with people. But there you are, you're in New York City, you get this acclaim. How did it strike you? How did it affect you? What kind
Well,
of hope did it bring to you?
it definitely affected me. I remember it exactly how it was. I had 2 kids. I was struggling, paying bills. I was playing, the folk thing I got kind of labeled that because I was playing acoustic guitar, but that's only because I had no money to pay musicians and I had no interest in joining a group. I just wanted to play my own songs. And I did. I just found, and I got gigs at Kenny's Castaways, which is on Bleecker Street. Great venue.
Right.
Kenny, God bless Don Hill, who was managing the club at the time. And he was the one who told Robert Palmer. Robert called the club asking what time the headliner went on. And I was just opening up. I had just started playing, you'd play 6 nights a week, 2 sets. And Don Hill told Robert, the headliner goes on at 9. but you convinced him you should come at 8. You need to see the guy opening up the show.
No.
Something special. So God bless Downhill for that. And when the review came out 2 days later, it was like this. I mean, we couldn't. If you and I sat around trying to make up a review, like let's make up the greatest. It was all of that. So there was half a dozen record companies. The place was packed to the rafters, and I'm opening the show. I kind of felt bad for my buddy who was headlining, and that wasn't my fault, obviously, but people looked at me differently that I knew, and because fame was never something that I was after.
Mm,
I'm trying to make a living, like I always say, stinking rich, bring it on. I'm okay with that.
right.
I think I'd be a good rich guy. I think I have fun with it and I could do some good with it. But being famous, I don't think is something that's going to get you to a place of enlightenment, or it's temporary. It didn't do a lot done for Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, so that was not my thing.
Mm,
I wasn't there to show off. I wasn't there to love me. I'm not a glory boy.
right, right.
It was the music. It still is. That's why I'm having so much fun. It's the music that drives me. I'm still as passionate as I was. I mean, I look like a ghost right now because I'm so underslept. I had a bunch of gigs in the Midwest, and I flew into town and had 4 hours sleep last night and 4 hours now. That's okay. But I'm still driven, still passionate. It still matters to me. That's why the shows are still good, because I care.
Right.
I stopped caring. I wouldn't walk on a stage. I wouldn't go into a recording studio. I don't make records and put filler on. A song only gets on a record of mine if I think it's really special, if it means something to me. That's why the catalog has gotten so rich over these years, is because I care about it. Stuff I write them for me, but I get to share them with people. I've got a great team around me. Can't do it alone. I've got a great band. I've had great
Right.
bands my whole career, but now Johnny Paisano on bass, Jimmy Bones on guitar, and John Weber on drums, and as good a band as you're going to find. Springsteen's played with us a bunch of times. And very, very generous, Bruce. He's generous to the artists he likes. But I have a great band. I've got a great production team. Stuart Lerman produces the records. He does all Scorsese's projects. He's worked with Elvis Costello, Patti Smith, a bunch of people. An engineer, James Frazee, great. Greg Calby masters it. So I got a really good team around me. I write the songs. A couple of them I co-wrote, but most of them I wrote. And, I care about it. It
Right.
means something to me. And I'm not here to show off or to, look, be glory boy. I don't care about that. It means nothing to me.
Yeah. It's interesting from a guy who I kind of tune in now watching musicians, and I really look for the joy. You can't fake it, right? When you see that joy between, that small communication pickups and stuff like that, and the smile, whatever it is. Sometimes it's subtle tone, sometimes it's guys doing jackknives in the air, right?
Well,
But that for me just brings me into your living room, and makes that kind of connection that you're able to do as an entertainer. I got to ask you a question. It wasn't all peaches and cream, right?
no,
You moved away from the
I
business.
walked away from the business after 2 years.
Yeah. What?
I went,
Tell me. Bring me back to that time if it's not too painful to talk
so no,
about.
no, it's not painful.
Okay.
You learn from, I mean, there's hardships in any business you go into. You could be a plumber, you could be an accountant, you could be a mortician,
Mm,
whatever, a musician, a songwriter, a poet, an actor, a playwright. Every road has its difficulties. And I came to New York to make music, and for joyful reasons. I mean, I write about all kinds of things: love, loss, partying on a Saturday night, politics, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's the fun of it for me. I can write about anything, and I do, and that's what keeps me interested. And uh, when my first record came out, it got, you know, a ton of press. I always got
mm,
the next big thing label
right.
pinned on me. The next Dylan, the next Springsteen, whatever. And I knew they were just labels. I didn't take that stuff seriously. I understood that people needed references, but I was getting the New York Times, Time Magazine, Washington Post, you name the paper, all the UK papers,
Mm,
Der Spiegel in Germany raves, and Billboard magazine double page spreads, the next big thing kind of stuff. And I was 27 at the time, I think. I could have been 28. I forget, but I didn't It didn't go to my head. I just thought because I had kids to feed. I mean,
Okay.
believe me,
You were grounded.
I was really grounded, but also,
Yeah.
I got enough, like, right away, I got enough feedback. Robert Palmer's article alone really meant the world to me. It was a validation for the hard years and all the press I got, and still do. I've been very lucky with the writers and the critics. I've been very, very lucky. It's the validation. It feels good, like, yep, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing something right. But I didn't lose my balance over it. And so I had, because I had business problems with a former manager and an attorney, it was not fun. And I'm playing gigs at night, going to arbitration during the day. All these guys wanted to manage me, and I didn't have anybody to counsel me. And I said one day I came home, I said to my wife at the time, I said, "They're killing my buzz.
Right.
Let's get out of here." Seriously, they're killing my buzz for music.
Yeah.
And I walked away. I left town. I went, "The hell with this." Oh, yeah. I'm probably not the smartest move in the world, although I told my dad the other day, my father's 107 and a half.
I heard.
He's an amazing man. And I told him a couple weeks ago, I said, had I been successful and made it big early on, I could be dead now.
Right.
I have 4 kids, and there's no question in my mind, if they grew up wealthy and could have anything they wanted, and instead of seeing their father struggle through the 80s, paying bills. September comes around, school, you need school books, clothes. Every year was a struggle. And
Mm.
there was ups and downs, but like they saw that and they respected me for, pursuing my dream. Maybe I'm just
Yeah.
fell on my head as a kid and I'm an idiot. I don't know, but I didn't know any better. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. So a couple months ago, I said to my father, I said, had I made it commercially successful, because success is an interesting word we could debate,
Right.
semantically. If I had commercial success and made a lot of money, I could be dead, you know?
Yeah. Right.
My kids could be ruined,
Right.
and the hard road that it's been, because lots of up and downs. The 80s were tough, ups and downs, but I hung in there, and those hard times taught me. First of all, I never stopped writing.
Okay.
I never stopped doing what I was doing. I stopped making records. I went, "The hell with this." I refused. I mean, there's a lot of people that tried for me. I don't have these stories, crybaby stories about record companies. "Oh my God, I got so screwed." I don't have those stories. There are some people. Clive Davis tried hard for me.
Mm.
Rick off of Columbia Records tried hard for me. Paul Rappaport, Long Island Boy, Jim Del Balzo tried really hard for me at Columbia. Bunch of people at Arista tried really hard for me, for which I'm really grateful. I didn't
Mm.
I didn't take any of that for granted. I was grateful just to put records out. So I don't have these crybaby stories about, "Oh, I got ripped off." None. So when I first moved to the Greenwich Village in '72, there's a lot of musicians walking around with chips on their shoulder. And I remember thinking, I don't want that, and
Right.
there's no chips. It's been a fascinating ride. The good times and the hard times have made me stronger. Those years, like I made a record in 90, 80, 81, and then 91, put records out. So during that period, I grew as a writer. I didn't have anybody, no cameras looking over my shoulder. I was able to just explore and to grow. So I look at it as hard as it was, as beneficial. I became a better artist, I think.
I appreciate the struggles, lessons for your kids, right? They say, dad didn't come on easy street, and the lessons that you may never know they learned,
Yeah.
and the appreciation that you had that you went for that golden ring and you survived,
Yeah, totally.
and now you're back,
I mean, I made 9 records between. I started putting my own records out in the end of '99 through 2000. A buddy of mine convinced me, "You should put it on your own label." That's what artists are starting to do now, the Texas artists. And so I did. I borrowed some money, made a record, put it out. Beautiful record of the world. Got great reviews, and that opened a door for me. I didn't have to wait for the major labels anymore to come along and put the money up. And I had great musicians around me all through my journey from,
right?
from 1980 up to the present time. And, you know, you learn. It makes you tougher. What did Levon Helms say in the documentary about the band? He said, "New York City will kick your butt. Kick your butt. You leave town with your tail between your legs. You pick yourself up and you go back in." And I mean, I I like it. I don't. I mean, I have regrets on some decisions I made. I could have done better for sure.
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
It certainly made it easier for my, the mother of my children and my kids and stuff. But we're all really close. We're all happy. We're rocking.
Yeah, and you know what? And I want to mention this because I don't want to leave this to the end. When you go to Willie's site, you'll see, and I think it's really a great thing that your fans can invest in you by helping you do your next album.
It's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great say. I helped Willie. I helped a guy I love to listen to put out more of his art, and I think that's a great trend to go.
We have a fan fund, and
Right,
the fans have been amazing. It costs money to make a record, to promote a record, to manufacture a record when you have your own label. There's no big. The fans are my backers, and they're
right,
and they're great. And we deliver every time out. If you look at the records, every single one of them has heart and soul, and
absolutely.
they're believable. And the fans are so great. Like with touring, whether it's in Europe or North America, there's great people I met along the way, and I love seeing them go to a different city, see old friends. It's great. But the fan funding has been pivotal.
Yeah,
I know that if I want to make a record, I can just set up a fan fund and boom, like in a matter of weeks, they show up and boom, and I can pay musicians, pay studio costs, manufacture,
right.
and so it's a mom and pop, you know, organization, but it's great, and the places I reached, the things I opened up for the Who. I toured with the Who in 1980, opened across the country for them, and
That blew my mind.
I played with them a couple of years ago in Woodstock at Bethel Woods. I stayed friends with Pete and Roger and their manager Bill Kerbish. They're great people, really kind to me, and the things that I've gotten to do. I toured with Ringo Starr. I got to sing "I Get By with a Little Help from My Friends" with Ringo. I mean,
Nice.
I mean, if you'd have told me that I'd been on Giant Stadium with Springsteen in front of 70,000 people going nuts, Shea Stadium, like 10 years before that with Bruce,
Right.
people going nuts, 60,000. I would have thought you were nuts when I was leaving Buffalo. I go, "You're high on crack? What are you talking about?" There's so many things that have happened to me, Great artists, Richard Thompson, Lucinda Williams, Steve Earle, who sings on this record. The new album I got, the Great Yellow Light, there's a song called "Wake Up America," and Steve Earle does a duet with me.
Oh, nice.
An Irish Goodbye on the new album. Paul Brady, legendary Irish, iconic songwriter, singer, great musician, great singer. He sings with me on that song, and I never imagined any of that stuff. I just was kind of bullheaded and moved. I'm going to go to New York City and jump on stage. I didn't do any stage performing in Buffalo. I just came here and jumped on stage and started going. And
Hey,
yeah, go
let
ahead.
me ask you this. I'm going to cut you off,
Yep.
Willie. How did it go from playing clubs at one point and now you're in an arena? Did you really kind of figure it out before you got on stage how you had to
Trial
be
by
as an entity?
trial by fire, and it was great.
Oh, okay.
I was fearless. You
Good
can
for
call it
you.
you could call it fearless. You could call it dumb, but I'd never played with a rock and roll band before. I mean, I
Wow.
wasn't one of those kids who had high school bands or college bands. I was in the library writing poetry,
Okay.
and
Right.
or wherever I was in my room writing poetry. And I came to New York, couldn't afford a band, so I had an acoustic guitar, which is why I got a kind of a folk label. I was playing rock and roll songs. I was jumping off the stage, carrying on, and I write a variety of music, ballads, rockers, but basically a rocker. I signed this record deal with Arista Records and put a band together. Great band. J.D. Doherty on drums, Patti Smith's drummer.
Wow.
A band called the Criers from Mississippi, good friends of mine, Clay Barnes and Tommy Etheridge. Great guitarist from Boston, Peter Hoffman. We made a record. I'd never played with the band. We rehearsed for 4 days, made a record, like a week, over the course of a week and a half. And we toured across the U.S. And it's the first time I ever went on tour. And it was a rock band. And I had no trouble. It was like the first show was I got a black eye the first night because I had a roadie. And after the last song, I was going off the stage and he went to take my guitar off and it banged me in the eye. you know, I went and did an encore, but 2 days later, I was on TV in New York on Live at 5, and I had this big shiner. And a buddy of mine was walking down Fifth Avenue, and he passed a television, an electronics store, and he said, "Well, there are like 60 TVs in the window," and they did a close up on my eye, and he looked up, saw I was on TV, and I was on 60 TVs on Fifth Avenue. So, but playing was it was an easy transition, but we were playing clubs, small theaters, 150, 250, 300 maybe, and we ended up across the country in LA at the Roxy. Freddie Mercury came out.
Wow.
And well, a bunch of people came out to see the new Hot Shot from New York, you know,
Right.
and we've had a ball playing, which we always did. And the Who's manager was there, Bill Kerbersley, and he invited me to open up for the Who.
And that's how, wow. That's how that
And
came.
I heard Pete was a fan of the record, which he turned out he actually was. And so the next thing I know, I'm in front of 20,000 people, 20,000 Who fans. Who fans?
Right.
They're not just your normal fans. So they were wild. We're talking 1980, and I was fearless. I went, you know, I thought, well, okay. And I remember turning around at one point and look at the band, and they looked white as ghosts. You know, 20,000 people waiting for the Who, and it was really fun. And I learned like by the second or third gig, I kind of figured a way to talk to 20,000 people,
Interesting.
keep it short, and have some fun. And
Right.
we did it. It was a time of my life. I remember the transition, getting that review, which could easily have knocked me off my feet. It got me to making records for major labels, and traveling with the Who was so much fun. I'll tell you why. What's behind it is, for me, it's all about the songs. It's all about this record, "The Great Yellow Light."
Yep.
It's all about the songs, and that's why I'm not there to show off. I'm not there to be a famous guy. I'm there to sing these songs that I love, and it translates, whether it's in a
Right.
small club or whether it's in 20,000 seat stadium. Somehow it comes across.
That's amazing. Now we talked about New York a couple of times, and you have this love affair with New York. I have a love affair with New York. It's the center of the world to me. You know, grime, everything. Um, Knowing what you've gone through, the ups and downs, the fact that you talk about social justice and politics, and I find people who are willing, especially artists who are willing to go that road, which I think is very much needed, come from a point of empathy of I've been there, I've been down, and I know what it's like, and I want to speak to it.
I think it doesn't come from necessarily me being up or down or me being
Okay,
without,
tell me.
it more comes from the family I grew up in. My parents, we had 8 kids. My parents were really giving, generous, loving people,
Mm.
devout Catholics. And we had foreign exchange students from 19,
On top of that,
we had hundreds. They belonged to something called the World Something Organization. So visitors that came to Buffalo that wanted to visit Niagara Falls, they'd say, we want to go to a normal American home. Well, we would have a student every year round, and sometimes a
cool.
couple in the summer. And my parents started an exchange program with Quito, Ecuador. But we had Buddhist monks. We had priests that were imprisoned in China for 20 years who taught us to use chopsticks, tried. We had, I remember in the late 50s, there was a Hungarian student who had no thumb. He had been tortured, you know, when there was the uprising in Hungary, and he was tortured. They took his thumb off.
Mm.
He came a couple of times. Bella, I forget his last name, nice guy. You know, name a country, any country in the world, anyone, all those African countries, someone from that country came to our house. So it was the
Cool.
most cosmopolitan, and there were rich, there were poor, everything in between. Young students that stayed year round, we always got close to them, and you were impressed by people spoke different languages, might have had different faiths, smelled different, ate different food,
Hmm.
but there was a humanity. And
Right.
my parents were just so open to everyone, and then my brothers and sisters and I shared that. So that kind of sense of the human condition, the human family, you know. My dad, he got a letter from a guy in India once. My father was an accountant,
Okay.
humble man, still going.
All right.
God bless him. And he got a letter from a guy saying there's an 18-year-old student here. His name is, I forgot, something Khan. Anyway, he wants to come to study medicine in the US, but he needs a sponsor who would be responsible for food, clothing, medical insurance, whatever. And my dad, who had 8 kids at the time, goes, sure. 8 kids and a foreign exchange student said, I'll do it.
Wow.
He just did it, and mom, they were just so giving. That's what gave me, and still to this day gives me, the sense that we're all brothers and sisters on this planet.
Great. Yeah.
Our better angels, you know? I believe there's a lot of good, there's some bad actors clearly in the world, there's crazies or whatever,
Hmm.
people out for themselves, but by and large, there's a lot of good people, and the dream that is this our country, the US, it's a great dream, come for a better life, from where we come from, it's a nation of immigrants. And I believe that, I've seen people be good to each other, help each other. If you and I were driving in a truck across the country, and we had a flat tire or a sick kid in the back seat, and we pulled up to a farmhouse or whatever, 9 times out of 10 or more, the people, "What do you need? What can I do to help?"
Sure.
That's where my
Yep.
that's where my politics start, just with human kindness, with compassion, empathy for people, but I didn't learn that from my own struggle. My own
Okay.
my own struggle's minimal. I got through it. I got through it, and, but it's like just from the family I grew up in, gave me a real lesson in treating our neighbors with, whether it's down the street or across the world, with love and compassion and empathy.
Yeah. That's wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. When we come out of our community bubble and experience other cultures and other people and see the humanity, it just broadens, it doesn't separate us, it unites us.
It's not our fault, like, if you grew up in a community and you stay there and you don't, but I've been fortunate to travel. I travel to Europe all the time for the last, I don't know how many years, I tour in Italy, Spain, the UK, Scotland, Wales, Germany, never played in France. I gotta get there, but, so I've gotten to other cultures, Canada many times, and you see other cultures and you learn from it. So I've been really blessed and really lucky on my journey in that I've got windows open to other people's worlds. And as a writer, I get a glimpse into that. And, I tend to be sympathetic and empathetic about other people's lives.
Mm,
And it
interesting.
definitely impacts my writing. You know, I don't,
Hey, I want to.
I don't
I'm
stand on,
sorry.
I don't stand on a soapbox. Well, we got to do this. I'm just trying to spread a little bit of love and a little joy. Life is tough. People die. So my concerts are feel good experience. You come to one of my shows, you're gonna have a good time. I may sing about holy war or whatever, cell phones ring in the pockets of the dead, but at the end of the day, you're gonna walk out there with a smile on your face, feeling good. It happens every time. Band feels it, I feel it, the audience feels it. Life's tough enough without some show off musician up there mouthing off. So my shows are good time. They're parties, and
Nice.
I like to share the music.
Nice. Hey, I want to talk to you about you performed your song One Guitar with Springsteen at the Light of Day charity.
Yep.
Tell me about supporting causes like Parkinson's.
See,
I think that was
that's why I'd be a good rich guy. If I was stinking rich, I do stuff. I'm not stinking rich,
right.
I've been to Light of Day is an organization out of, New Jersey. It's, lightofday.org. They're looking for started out looking for a cure for Parkinson's. My good buddy Bob Benjamin got diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 35 or 37.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Instead of having that was 25 years ago, and instead of having his annual birthday party, he said, let's make donations." He started this charity for, and it's money now goes to Parkinson. We've raised over $7 million over 25 years. It's for looking for cures for Parkinson's, ALS, PSP. Springsteen's been a part of it for more than half of those years. He'll come, play for an hour and a half, blow the roof off the place. And every year, he'll sing with other artists. He's sung with me every time. He's very generous that way. And it's like, if you and I could find a cure for Parkinson's, man, oh man, would we rush to the right place to get the word out? Because a lot of people know people with Parkinson's and ALS and different diseases. And the musicians, there's lots of musicians. I think now that it's a winter fest. There's like 67 events, culminating in the big event. This year was at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. And they're always great events. People come from all over Europe, and they have for years. There's a community of people that comes for the music, comes for the fun, knowing that they're supporting a good cause, over $7 million. And a cool part of that, it's about giving. Uh, and my ma used to say, "It's better to give than to receive." I'd always tease her. "Oh, come on, ma." She knew I was kidding her. Third year we had it, Michael J. Fox came, and he sang with Bruce, and at the end, we were all on stage, and he had Parkinson's, and he was on a rough day. One of his legs wasn't working great, one of his hands wasn't working great, and by him coming, seeing this, he's that year started his own part,
His foundation, yeah.
and they've raised tens and tens and tens of millions. So one good turn can, you know, the ripple can affect other people. And one day they'll find a cure for Parkinson's. We'll have a huge party, and then the day after that, we'll go find some other disease to go after. It's good. It feels
Yeah, it's funny that in doing my research on you, Willie, that Parkinson's jumped out at me. My father-in-law had Parkinson's, and he was a strapping former Marine, butcher, German guy. And, to see the challenges that he had and he came to live with us, which was a big pride jump for him to say, yeah, I need help, and to work closely with him and see, and, always, I just got to throw this out there, would always question me about those who take care of anyone who's ill. Is it when they're having difficulty, is it their personality or is it the disease that's giving the difficulty of whatever it is that he struggled? But, you know, um, my daughter got to watch that struggle and watch my wife and I work with him. And it was a blessing to be able to be there with him.
I was gonna say that it's a blessing for you and your wife, and for your
Yeah.
daughter, what a great life lesson,
Yeah.
to see the mom and
Yeah.
dad taking care of your dad, like, that's life is real, and I always
Right.
I always say, like, if everybody got along, like, look at the world right now, the mess the world's in, my god.
Mm,
If every country got along and tried to help each other, life would still be difficult.
right.
Planes crash, people die, disease, whatever.
Suffering.
So for your daughter, that was a great lesson. You took out of necessity. Your father came to live with you, and you took him in, took care of him. But she got to see that. So that's a master class in humanity.
Yeah. And you know what? For him, we were born on the same day. So we had this symbiosis
Yeah,
between us. He was great. He was like my best friend.
you're a lucky guy.
I was very fortunate, and they called him Papa George. And Papa George, the fact that he let us take care of him was a huge step.
That's a
Was
huge step.
huge. He was an independent guy,
A Marine? Are you kidding? Huge step.
right?
But need is need, and my daughter Jojo, she always teases me, Dad, when it comes your time, we're just gonna bury you in the backyard. That's it. But what a great gift to give your daughter inadvertently for her to see that. That's a life lesson.
Yeah. Hey, I got to ask you. You said your dad's 107.
And plus over 200 days. So yeah, he was
Wow.
a month ago. He was the 44th oldest man in the U.S. 2 weeks ago, he was the 43rd oldest man. Well, the other day I found out he's the 42nd oldest man in the U.S. He's 107. He's born 1917. Lives at home. No medication. Takes no medication. Not for any reason.
Right.
And he's just blessed. And that's 3 hours across. Lives home. He's still got his wits about him, big time. Still funny. Great storyteller. Doesn't complain. It's not easy being 107. Getting around is tough. He's got a walker, and he's close to wheelchair time.
Yeah.
But he's still one of my brothers. Talk about giving. I mean, I've got 4 siblings in Buffalo. One, two, three. Three in Buffalo, and they're doing a great job. Over one of my brothers, Joe. I mean, he's just like 6 years living with dad, take care, watching after him, cooking for him, and having him not fall is a big deal. But we learned a lot from him, and he's a dignified guy. He really showed us how to live, and yeah, like we're lucky, we count our blessings. That's for sure.
Right. Not to do one-upsmanship on you, but I actually interviewed the oldest nun in the world the other day.
Wow.
112.
Whoa. Go sister. Go sister.
Sister Frances, Dominican sister of Amityville here on Long Island. I just got to tell you about it real quick.
Go.
When she was 2 years old, she lost below the elbow her arm, okay, in a train accident. Her father worked for the Long Island Railroad, okay. At 17, she decides she wants to become a nun. A couple of orders turn her down because she's handicapped, right? Dominicans take her in, right? And this is very similar to your father, right? She only went into assisted living last year at 111. She taught mathematics at Malloy University till she was 85 years old. And let me tell you, she is full of vim and vigor, and the Her voice is strong. She has another sister who helps her. I'm going back to interview her a second time tomorrow, but just such interesting people.
Well,
And
it's the stories they can tell, like, my dad will talk about the 20s, the 30s, the 40s,
yeah,
the first person history, and bless her heart, 112. Wow, that's spirit.
yeah. But there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn about just their daily activities and what keeps them strong and stuff like that. It's just I'm really looking forward. I feel blessed too because how many people get the opportunity to do
Good for
that.
you,
So
Steve. Good for you.
so I got that going for me.
That's a lot.
Hey, oh, I want to talk about one. I got to ask you this. I don't know which album it is. Um, there's a black and white picture on your album cover of a guy. It looks like another culture guy with a staff.
Well, yeah, that's the day the earth stood still.
Yes, yes.
That
Thank you.
that's a street artist. That's a photograph taken by my wife, Christina Aragoni, great photographer. She shoots street people,
Okay.
and in Washington Square Park, Johann Figueroa Gonzalez. I'm not a big guy; he's shorter than I am, and
Okay.
paints his body white and stands on a pedestal. That he can't even get on the pedestal. It's like
Okay.
I couldn't get on that. He gets on and off it, and he freezes. Like the album's called "The Day the Earth Stood Still," and she said to me one day, I was working on the album. She says, "I think I have an idea for your cover." And she mentioned, and I knew the photos that she took of him. I go, "Oh my God, what a great idea." And so there's pictures of him in the album, and they're just perfect. The back cover is him on the Washington Square Arch in Washington Square Park. You can see him if you're in New York. He camps out in front of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it's something else to see. You can watch him for half an hour, and he'll freeze in a pose, with a staff or whatever. And he's got headgear on, painted white, and somebody will put money into his bucket down below, and he'll blow a slow motion kiss, and then he'll get another pose. It's a living statue. That's what he does.
Oh, okay.
Amazing. If you're near the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a nice day in the summertime, see if he's working out front. He's amazing.
Oh, yeah, my daughter lives right near there, so definitely gonna.
Let her know that because he's
Yeah.
one of the wonders of New York City. He's Puerto Rican, and he during the summertime he's in New York, and that's his spot. He used to be in Washington Square Park, but he got robbed last June, and I stopped coming there. I'm not sure if he'll come back. Maybe, but he's in Metropolitan Museum of Art. He's an amazing artist, living statue. You won't believe it's a person. He's great.
Amazing. And you wrote that during COVID, if I recall.
But yeah,
And the day the Earth stood still refers. There's another reference to I think a sci-fi movie in the 50s, right?
great. 1951, great movie.
Right. But that robot scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. That
Great
came down.
movie. It's still
Right.
good.
But just the title of that album, I remember, it's not that long ago, how everything stopped. It was very similar after 9/11. Everything stopped. If you saw an airplane after 9/11 in the sky, you froze like, what the hell is that? And there's two sides of the earth staying still or you being still. It's reference back to him. That certain stillness and presence. These things kind of ruminate in my mind just from that title.
Well, I have a storage space near the Holland Tunnel, and if you'd have told me that New York would be a ghost town, I would have thought you were high on
Crazy.
something crack. But like, there was people not in the streets. You could lay down in the middle of Sixth Avenue, like by the Holland Tunnel on what is it? It's past rush hour now, but during rush hour, you could take you half an hour to go 3 blocks. And on a Friday night, so just walking the streets was eerie, to say the least. Just bizarre. No people around, occasional person. I mean, there'd be people, but not many. Everybody's behind their walls. Or the beauty of being on the roof, cheering on the first responders. That was so glorious. Anyway, so I go to my storage space on a Friday night to get something. Come out at 6 o'clock, Friday night. I come to the corner of Spring Street in Varick, and there was not a car in sight. I looked uptown. I could see looked downtown. Not a car, not a soul. East,
Wow.
west. not one soul, and I stood in the middle of the street, and I went, "The day the earth stood still," and I walked home writing it on my way. So it was fascinating, and thank God, it's, we're not in that situation anymore.
Right, right. You know what I love about when people write songs or the muse hits you, we're kind of swinging back to that. It happened to me once where a couple times for me. One was a poem, one was an essay that I was so struck by what I had saw when we were
Mm.
in Baltimore. And told my wife, Debbie, I said, you got to drive. I got to write this down. It's flowing. It's like a fire hose. I'm sure that that happens to you.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if, yeah,
Like, the phone with the phones, with voice memos, it's great. I got, like, 5,000 little things.
unfinished songs.
Well, they're not all some of them, like, it could be 20 of them for one song, but I put notes on there, and it's a great place to store melodies or tempos or lyrics or whatever. So, yeah. Yeah.
How are Willie, how are you with other people? I should have researched this, covering your songs. Do you have a favorite person who's covered one of your songs that you go, wow,
It's really hard to pick that,
yeah,
a few years back, um, uh, 2 guys with a label out in Long Island, Bill Herman and Tom, I think it was Tom.
oh yeah,
They
Bill Herman, know him well.
He's a great guy, and they're good guys. They approached me they wanted to do a tribute album of my songs, and I was kind of surprised, and I said, of course it's okay with me if you want to, but," and they got 26 artists to record 26 of my songs. And I remember I went to his home with his wife, and Tom and his wife were there, and they played me these tracks, and, like, I heard Vagabond Moon, and tears just started coming out of my face, like,
Nice.
I was so touched that 26 artists took the time, money got spent, and these great versions of these songs, and, like, it's I forget what it's called. It's called,
Willie Nile Uncovered?
that's it. Yeah,
Yes.
Willie Nile Uncovered. It's terrific. It's 26 tunes. I couldn't pick a favorite. Nils Lofgren sings All God's Children. Graham Parker sings One Guitar. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I could name every artist. They're so all really good, and I was deeply touched. So I'd have to say that record is
Nice.
something I never expected.
Yeah, I know Bill Herman, great guy.
Great guy.
He's done Bob Dylan Uncovered, I think up to album number 4. And like you said, he gets all these Long Island, and I always say this is a wellspring of talent here on Long Island. It blew my mind when I started this 4 years ago. You just don't run out of people who are great to that you want to talk to and get to know them better, get your audience to know them better. But they did that. They did. What else did they do? Hank Williams. That blew my mind. For me, like I know Hank Williams songs, but when it comes alive through a different voice and they're doing it, they're not, it's not like a cover band. They're doing it in their style or, in their voice. And it's a beautiful thing. Anyway,
It's a beautiful thing. I'm working on Warren Zevon one now.
right.
I recorded a song for it. Warren was amazing, and bless their hearts for doing that.
Yeah. It makes Warren Zevon and these other artists alive for people who may not have really,
Yep.
s- get clued into that. And I do have to do one other shout out to Christine Santelli.
She's great. I saw her last night. She's great.
Oh, did you? Oh, great.
She's in the New York Blues Hall of Fame, and she's a great singer, great songwriter. It's hard to write great songs, and she does both. She's the real deal. Yeah,
Oh, that's
on Bleecker Street, there was a blues jamming that she runs on Monday nights.
at the Red Lion, I think, right?
And I stopped by just to say a quick hi, and a few friends in there. She's great.
She's really, and she was on the podcast. What a great story. These stories come out of left field. It's just really cool.
She's terrific.
So, hey, I just wanted to say something to the audience. Please comment, share, tell us what you think. I respond to every comment. If you know Willie, put a comment in there as well. And
He owes me money.
there's that $20, And and there's always a couple of people out there like, you got to shut up and let the artist talk. So I say, yeah, you're right.
I'm enjoying talking with you, Steve. Very much so. I appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. I get a little celebrity-itis and calm myself down before you came on.
You know,
But I want everybody to go to willienile.com. Just go there because you're going to be listening to this episode at different times. but you're going to be back in New York. You're heading up to New Hampshire. You're going to be in Connecticut, playing all these different venues. And I can't. When you're in New York, I can't wait to see you and meet you in person. It'll be
Thank you, Steve. We're playing. We're booked at my father's place in Roslyn Island on the November 8th. And
cool.
if people go to willienile.com, you can see where we're playing. And the 24th of June, we're playing on the album release show. This new record, The Great Yellow Light, doesn't suck. And we're playing. I mean, look at that photograph. That's so great. And
Did your wife shoot? Did you?
he sure did. The Great Yellow Light, and it's just a circus in Italy. And we're gonna have it 24th of June. We're gonna play the album top to bottom. I can't wait. So
And where are you doing that?
Sony Hall.
I'm gonna go.
But if people, yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, the band is. I got one of the best bands in the world. And they're great players, and they give everything they got every song. Nobody phones it in. So
Nice.
we're gonna have a big party on the 24th of June at Sony Hall. That's for sure. But if people want to see where we're playing, they can check the website's got that stuff.
Well, Willie, I really want to thank you for one sharing everything that you have shared so far. I'd love to have you back. I think there's more we could cover.
My pleasure.
And thanks for being present to me. That's the name of it.
I appreciate you taking the time. It's much appreciated. And your kind words.
You got it, brother.
Fun to talk about music and life. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
Yeah, man.
So as I say, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well, everybody.